Why do plants need light? It's pretty well known that plants need light, but now we're going to talk about exactly why. So, plants need light to make their own food in a process called photosynthesis. Through photosynthesis, the leaves of the plant make carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water. These carbohydrates are then consumed by the plant to grow and metabolize. Fertilizer is often thought of as food for the plant, but it is not. Fertilizer provides nutrients to help a plant make its food, but it's not the actual food for the plant. When light is insufficient, the plant doesn't make as much food. When a plant is low on food, it gets stressed. And for indoor plants, this means yellow and brown leaves, leaf tipping, leaf drop, stretching, and premature death. Disappointments to our customers and lost money for Ambius. If we have sufficient light, we can expect our plants to look good and last a long time. You probably have heard that some plants need more light than others. Many plants we use are native to tropical rainforests. And anytime you have a forest, you have large trees at the top of the canopy absorbing and blocking much of the light from getting lower down. The closer you get to the ground, the darker it gets due to all this vegetation above absorbing most of that light. But there still are plants at the bottom, and they have evolved to these lower light conditions. They tend to grow slower, they have larger and darker leaves to absorb more light, which allows them to survive in these darker environments. These plants are commonly used indoors, and we often refer to these as low light plants. They include aglaonemas, philodendrons, spathiphyllum, ZZ plant, sansevieria, and many dracaenas and pothos. Higher light plants are sometimes used indoors if the lighting is also high. These plants tend to be large in size, like trees, or they have brightly colored foliage, or they're cactus-like or succulent-like. Highlight plants include ficus and black olive trees, trunk palms like Veitchia palms, crotons, and cactus and euphorbias and other succulents. And then there's other plants that fall somewhere in the middle. So they're not really highlight or low light, and these would be considered medium light plants. These include many medium-sized plants like Scheffleras, many palms, Aralias, and plants that would otherwise be low light plants but have brighter colors. So this would include, for example, limelight dracaena or neon pothos or any of the colored aglaonemas or other colored dracaenas or philodendrons out there. Those would all fall in the medium light category. Fortunately, we have a guide for all plants and the required light levels, so you need not memorize or guess. We're going to cover this guide soon, but first let's talk about measuring light and what exactly do we mean by low, medium, and high light. When measuring light, a lot of times people just use their eyes to kind of guess as to how bright or dark the light is. But our eyes are not good at determining how bright light is, mainly because our eyes adjust to bright or dark conditions. Our pupils expand and contract. Light meters are the only way to accurately measure the brightness of light. Most light meters are used to measure light for cameras and photography. Nearly all smartphones and cameras have a built-in light meter to determine exposure and if the flash should be used. These light meters measure the brightness of light in foot candles or lux. The amount of light emitted from a candle from a foot away is roughly 1 foot candle of light. Historically, we've used foot candle light meters to measure the brightness of light. These meters were helpful, but they interpret light the way people interpret light. They're more sensitive to light, our eyes are sensitive to, in that yellow and green spectrum. However, this is not the way plants see light. Plants absorb yellow and green light, but they also absorb a lot of red and blue light that our eyes are not as sensitive to. A PAR meter is a plant light meter that measures all of the visible spectrum equally, including the blue and red light on the far ends of the spectrum. The entire spectrum of light is what plants use to photosynthesize, and it's called photosynthetic active radiation, or PAR for short. Until recently, PAR meters were very expensive and not easy to get, but with new technology, the price and availability of reliable PAR meters has come down drastically, making them available to more people. In fact, the new Dano Plus light meter costs half of what our old foot candle light meters cost. The only real downside to these PAR meters is that they do not use what we've always been using, which is foot candles, or some people have used lux. Instead, they use a new unit of measurement called ppfd, which stands for photosynthetic photon flux density, or ppfd. It's just a fancy way of saying the number of photons hitting the surface of a sensor at any given time. Photons are like small packets of light energy, so the more photons you have, the more light you have. The actual unit of measurement is micromoles per square meter per second, which is the number of photons hitting a square meter for 1 second. For those of you familiar with foot candles, there's roughly 6 foot candles for every 1 micromole of light. So if you have 60 foot candles of light, you have 10 micromoles. So it's a conversion factor of 6. If special grow lights are used, the PAR meter is going to pick up more of this light, which means using PAR light meters is an advantage since it's detecting light that a typical light meter would not detect. And LED lights have some more of this light, so the PAR meter is going to detect more of this. So our ranges for low, medium, and high light plants are as follows. Low light plants, 5 micromoles and up. Medium light plants, 10 micromoles and up. High light plants, 15 micromoles and up. So 5, 10, 15. Just going over some of the main features of the PAR light meter, just from top down to show you what's what. This white thing right here, the sensor is underneath that, and the little white dome on top of it is a diffuser to distribute the light more evenly to the sensor. It does not need to be covered or anything, you just leave it as is. Beneath that we have the power on-off button, and then the display screen. So those are the main features on the front side. On the back side, battery-wise, it just takes 2 AAA batteries, just standard batteries that you would normally use. And then to go over just some basics on how to use the light meter, to just turn it on, you just do a quick hold like this, and this will turn the display screen on. Most of what you're going to be looking at is the large numbers right here, and that is going to give you the PAR reading in ppfd. Remember that the unit for that, if you're interested, it's micromoles per meter squared per second. So it means at any given second, where this sensor is right now, it's picking up a little over 5 micromoles. To turn it off, you just simply hold down on it a little bit longer, so you do a long hold and it'll turn off. It'll also turn off automatically after 3 minutes. So if you do leave it on by accident, that's no problem. And then I think the other main button that you probably would be using is the hold button, which is on the side over here. So if you are raising the meter up and you want to record something, you can just press that hold button and it will hold the reading for you. Let's say we want to put a plant in this area and we want to know what the light reading is like up here. So there is no cord on the sensor. So what you can do is you can just take the light meter and hold it, pretty much as high as you want, and then go ahead and hit that hold button. And when you hit the hold button, it's going to record what that reading was that high up. And now if you want, you can take a picture of that and you know what the reading was. I'll show you one more feature that's also nice about this. So you turn the unit off, and then if you turn the unit back on and you want to get an average, so let's say we're going to put a big tree right here. If we go ahead and take readings from all the way up on top to, let's say, the bottom of the tree would be down here, then it's going to give us an average reading. You can see the average right there is 17. So I'll just go over that again. And so from the time that you turn that on, you go ahead and then you'll move it around where you want to get the reading, and then you're going to go ahead and hit hold, and then it's going to show you the average reading that you got. So that's going to average out all of the readings that you took from the time you turned it on until you hit the hold button. So we're outside, it's July, it's summertime, full sun, and we have almost 2,000 micromoles out here, which is much brighter than what you would have inside. Here we have the same plants that are actually in shade. So we went from about close to 2,000 micromoles at about 150, 140, 150. So it's 10 times darker. So So here we're taking some readings at a different location, and if your numbers jump around, which it can easily happen, what I suggest you do is just take the average. So we just turned the meter on, so from where we just held this meter from turning it on, it's going to record the average light reading. So to get that, we'll just go ahead and hit hold, and it's going to hold the average light reading right here. So when the numbers jump around, just use the average. So let's say we're going to put plants in this location. So first off, we want to take the readings where the plants are going to be. So if the plants are not going to be right in the window, we don't want to take the reading right in the window. We want to take it where they're actually going to be. And in this location right here, we're at about 200 micromoles. But now we're looking at about 25 micromoles. And then if we go ahead and close the blinds all together, completely, 6 micromoles in this location. This location right here is only 3 micromoles. So we're that close to a window, but we're all the way down. It's actually only 3 micromoles.